We will begin. So, greetings from the ICH NGO Forum Executive Board. We have been busy the springtime. We just launched the first newsletter. Hopefully, you all have got it. So there you can read about the activities that has been going on recently. We have, of course, worked with the newsletter, but also the mapping project and all the details, kind of the afterwork of it, with the working group activities, bylaws, new communication team is coming, and heritage to mention 2 dates actually, which is also in the newsletter you can find out about, but there will be the Heritage Alive publication abstract deadline will be end of this month, and then end of July then will be the short film documentary application deadline also in 30th of July. So these dates are good to remember. And then, of course, one of the activities is planning for the Paris meeting. So hopefully we will see you in Paris next month. We are hoping that we can have our own room there for events, but as you probably know, that there is no side events present there. But anyways, we are hoping to see as many as possible from you, and also to have a decent welcome for the new accredited NGOs. So this webinar is about organizational and strategic aspect of the forum. World is quite different, and also the number of accredited NGOs is quite different if you compare it to the times when everything started. So Jorijn Neyrinck will be giving her reflections about the kind of the history and the overall situation where we are. And then we will continue with some reflections from Alain Muneean, also a little bit telling about the thing that we have to kind of at the same time also keep in our mind, that we work with the bylaws and more kind of practical things of the forum, so that we get the bylaws and all the electoral rules and such documents in line with also with the strategic plans. And then in the end, we have a possibility for discussion. But first, we have to, of course, just to welcome Fumiko Hinata. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here, to give your greetings from the Secretariat. So please, Fumiko, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Matti, and fellow members of the ICH NGO Forum. It's really a pleasure each time to be able to spend time together like this, to conduct together reflection, share news, and let's say move the convention together. Today I am connected with my colleague Giovanni Shepi. I don't know if you can say just a hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Fumiko. Hello, Matti.
And of course, with us in spirit, we have the whole team that is following the work of the ICH NGO Forum. We are joining today's meeting really out of our interest, because we feel that it is so important to be able to every now and then go back to reflect and see back what happened in the past, to be able to move forward. And we are in the middle of the preparing the 11th session of the General Assembly of the states parties to the convention, as Matti briefly mentioned, 17 and 18 June. In UNESCO headquarters. Of course, the session will be broadcast, and looking forward to seeing many of you. Actually, we are trying to finalize the working documents in 6 languages due for publication next Monday. So we are really, the whole corridor is in preparation. But once again, we felt very much that the topic of your discussion today is of vital importance. Now we have 258 accredited NGOs, and so many more will be recommended for accreditation at the 11th session of the GA, which is really a very important part of the living heritage family. But if we look back right at the beginning of the accreditation history, then we were just checking back our records. And then the first accreditation, we started with the 45 NGOs. And between now and then we had such a growth. In the very, very beginning, the involvement of the NGO was perhaps concentrating most specifically on the work of then the consultative body, which was now then it's called the evaluation body. So it had a quite restricted scope of operation. And with this reason, the committee opened a reflection on a broader participation of NGOs that ended in 2017, which tried to review different functions inter alia that NGOs could perform. We recognize, of course, in the operation directives, in other ways, many different roles that civil society can play under the convention, and which is the reflection of safeguarding living heritage really at all levels. I'm not talking only about the local, national, regional, and international sort of levels, but also in terms of academic research to hands-on safeguarding activities, assisting communities in documenting, inventorying, and transmitting their living heritage, and of course participating more broadly in the mechanisms of the convention. So over the years, we feel here at the Secretariat that really the journey of collaboration with accredited NGOs, and more specifically through the ICH NGO Forum, has been a fruitful journey. And now what we see is a very, very good sort of a mirror collaboration that whatever the governing bodies of the convention undertakes, and there is a way for the ICH NGO Forum to pick and then translate in terms of addressing emerging global challenges or talking about thematic initiatives more specifically, or then to work with the communities in terms of community-based approaches and so on. So there is a growing synergies that we can see in different areas of our work, and also the participation of accredited NGOs, ICH NGO forums in the life of the convention's yearly calendar has been very notable, from the participation of the representatives in thematic expert meetings to the organization of the annual symposium. It is a pleasure for the Secretariat to be able to support, for example, the convening of the annual symposium at the committee session in different ways, supporting the participations of different representatives and so on. And we are looking forward to continuing this very fruitful collaboration going forward, not only talking about the GA, but also the committee meeting to be held at the end of the year in China. So I am just going to leave these words of appreciation to each of you, and to say that we are looking forward to the presentation that will follow, and to discuss how we can continue to work nicely together, taking into account, taking stock of all the journeys that we made together. I thank you very much and wish you a nice meeting together.
Thank you. Thank you, Fumiko. Thank you very much for your nice words and, of course, for the great collaboration that we have had the privilege to share. Then we will go on, and Jorijn, we will go with your presentation, and the floor is yours, please.
Hello, dear colleagues. Bonjour à tous. Do you see my presentation well, Matti?
Yes.
Yeah, and you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, my voice is a bit thin. I've had a cold over the last 10 days. So let me know if I get too silent. A journey it has been indeed, and I'm really happy to be able here with many of you. I see the room is full of people that have been with us in this long journey for quite some time. I will put my own presentation a bit smaller so that I can see it fully while speaking. Just a second, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is better. So I'm also looking forward. I will be sharing an experience, and I think most of you know it's a long experience and a long commitment to the work of the ICH NGO Forum, but with many of you that are here in the room, and also many coordinators, and now it's called the chair of this forum, that have taken the lead with a lot of voluntary work alongside the numerous efforts we're doing already in all of our contexts as NGOs. So I also on that side, I really think it is indeed very valuable. We do the work. It's a lot of efforts, and we're still growing. And it's good to reflect indeed on the trajectory we have gone, where do we come from, and from time to time to look where are we now and how can we move forward. I don't think there's one solution or answer on these kind of questions, but it's good to take stock and to have this kind of reflection in the midst of the forum, to make choices from time to time, like what's the next steps that we need to take as a forum. And what are maybe the bigger trends and challenges at this stage? Because indeed, not only society has changed, and there's a lot of geopolitical contexts that are quickly evolving, but there's also new initiatives in the UN and the UNESCO environment that maybe need some reflection also from the ICH field and the civil society developments there. So looking at and now it needs, to move. I will have a glance on the development of the forum. Matti asked to look into the early years, look at which kind of activities and governance. There is some noise. Maybe it's from your side, Matti. Can we check that? It's better now. Thank you. At the activities, the governance, how have we developed it? Because it was really a decisive development to have the governance being organized over a decade. Where we are now, then we look at the NGOs in the convention text briefly, because I don't think this is the focus of this meeting here today, but it's of course related also to the work of the forum itself, as it's the forum of accredited NGOs, roles of NGOs, and so also the roles of the forum. Then I would love to come back to the why. Why do we have a forum? What is its value? Why do we want to do this? And then look at ways forward. So this will be the outline of my presentation. And as we are looking back, I really want to look back. We started with the convention in 2008 to accredit NGOs. So it's mainly starting in 2009 that some NGOs start to be present in the rooms of the UNESCO meetings as observers. And in these very first meetings, I was not there myself in 2009. I only came the years after. But the experience that myself I had when arriving is like, you see that big room, you're not yet acquainted with what happens in such intergovernmental UNESCO meetings. So it's like learning a lot, the first sessions. And you see, okay, we are an observer, we're in the back of the room. and you're questioning yourself, what can I actually do here? And that's actually also where the first contact started. I think people being back in the room, starting to talk to each other, noticing that they are also observers, and some of them, many of them actually, are also NGOs that were waiting for accreditation or were just accredited, and starting to see, it seems like we cannot really do something here now in this area, but then what are we doing here together? Because we all have a reason to be here. We feel connected to the work of this convention, to its implementation, to making it stronger. And how could we maybe organize ourselves? And that's actually where the forum has been born, from being an observer and reflecting. It's for fun, of course, that I put the Cécile Duvel picture here again. But being an observer, what can you do in this convention? And that's where the first looking at the development of the forum started. We can see, like, I think 4 phases. There's the very early meetings where people were just connecting to each other. Then we will have a look into the next step, where we had some kind of initial informal organization. That's between 12 and 14. And then from 15 to 18, there was really like this institutional effort to get the forum organized. And from 18 onwards, the forum was really like an established organization with bylaws, with terms of references, with like this kind of annual meetings and so on that were well set. And since then, we have known all the elections and the well-organized system on institutional level. So, but in 2009 to 2011, and I think, I don't know if Valentina is here, but there were only very few of us, I think, that were there at that time. So there were the Abu Dhabi meetings, Nairobi, and the Bali meetings. You can see a picture of the Bali meeting here. That's the oldest picture that I could retrieve. And so where NGOs were present as observers, and they just started to meet, but you can see it's already in a quite official stage here. So there was already like a space where NGOs were having a space where they could have this kind of first initial talks to each other and get to know each other. Then between 2012 and 14, it really gets into an organization, still very informal. There was no association like we have today. The ICH NGO Forum today has also its own association and its executive board. So there was no such thing at the time. There was just a few people that took the lead, like we want to coordinate what's the many activities that NGOs want to do, and we have these meetings and we have ideas. So it was like 2-3 years of informal gatherings, organizing meetings, but already we did quite a lot there. So we started the annual general meetings at the Intergovernmental Committee sessions, and also actually because then the group, as Fumiko said, was quite small, but many of the colleagues that were active in these years are still here in the room. So that there was a group like Ananya and the colleagues, Joanne was there as well, that has really taken a role then, and that has continued to be among the basis of those people, because it's not only NGOs, I think it's always also people that have made efforts to help and foster the growth of the forum, and that have started back then to do this kind of initiatives. Okay, let's bring together people that are here in the room for these UNESCO meetings. Let's invite them to have general meetings and to reflect together as NGOs on what our role and contribution to this convention could be. And what we also did, and this was very much, and I saw that Janet's also here, related to some experts that have been among the initiators and the key experts around this convention. There was also this kind of maybe already research-related reflection like NGOs or civil society, and we should also make a statement and a reflection on what happens in the rooms of UNESCO. And I think this is when we will think forward, one of the things to reflect on. There's several ways to engage with the convention, and one of it is, of course, civil society to do the outreach and implement the convention and so on, to develop good practices. But there's also the reflection of civil society on what is happening in the UNESCO space and in this convention, and to follow the work, but maybe also from time to time point out like there is a concern and we should talk about it also in the official meetings, and to highlight these kind of questions and issues that we feel coming up from our work in the field, for example. So these kind of first statements back then were actually quite an effort. It took like evenings and evenings of writing together. It was very participatory, very collective. It was like all week we were following the meetings, and in the evening when the meetings were finished, we came together, sometimes for 3 to 4 hours, to reflect on what we had learned or on the agenda of the next day, and to see what should we say as NGOs about this. This is something that has changed over time. Of course, we do have the report now in the of the NGO, which is like more like a midterm view on what is happening, what are NGOs doing, and so on. And it's less relating specifically to the agenda of the meetings, and maybe it could be something to reflect on. Do we want it? Is it our role? And so on, how to go on with that. So, but this started back then, and this kind of drafting process of a statement, engaging with the agenda of the meetings, was an important part of the work that the Forum back then developed. What we also did in 2013 was to launch this annual Sunday symposium. Actually, we had a first symposium, I think, in Paris already, but with the IGC symposiums, we started at every committee meeting from 2013 onwards. And they have also been on the UNESCO website, on the dedicated webpage since that year. So also being supported by the UNESCO Secretariat to point out that there was also this NGO activity and symposium, inviting also States Party representatives and other experts to join these activities, and to have this kind of space of reflection just the day before the committee meeting starts. And then you see the growth from 2014 onwards. The Forum is invited on the stage to bring a report. At that time, it was not a report like we know today, and it was not in the official agenda. But we had this kind of informal space within the agenda when we were talking about the Secretariat's activities, where at the end of this agenda item, the NGO Forum was invited and could give a speech. And also there, it has been a bit of a trajectory to learn what do we want to raise actually in this speech. We only got a few minutes to tell something within this whole long week of debates, but it was quite early in the meetings, so we had to have a point of view of what do we want to tell here as ICH NGO Forum. And often this reflected, and all of these speeches I think are still on the Forum website as well. Often it reflected also a bit the stage where the Forum's development was at that point. So what grew very intensely over those 3 years of early development and getting more formal organization is all kind of networking activities. There was a lot of dynamics. ICHCAP invited the coordination group at that time to join them to reflect also on their role in the region, in the Asia-Pacific region, on how to engage with NGOs and civil society. So there have been both in 2012 and in 2014 some conferences and events to reflect on NGO roles within the convention at that stage. We had working groups, symposiums as we know them until today. So, but then after that stage, we get into a new stage, and the ends. I don't know if Luis is present here, but the colleagues from Catalonia were so kind in 2015 to actually host the first international conference of accredited NGOs. And some of us here were there at that point. On the slides, you will see the leaflet and the brochure that were developed from then. But I think it was an important initiative because it gave us like a few days where we could really focus on where are we now and how can we move on. Maybe it's something to do again. We have, of course, we have the online facilities now to meet, and we can also spread it in a few webinars. But there we had like 3-4 days where we could sit together and really talk and draft actually a mission, a vision, and values that then later on would be adopted in the meeting in Namibia. During the committee session, we had a proposal to set up a steering committee, which would be to get started like an informal steering committee, but that would coordinate and coach the transition into a fully elected steering committee, which is now the executive board after a few years. And in 2016, the Forums Association was established. So there was also like an institutional dimension, which, and I think this is also an issue today, we will come to it later on, which has to do with how can we really take steps forward. We need actually a secretariat so that the focus of the work of the NGOs can be on the contents, and that we should not be all the time focusing on this kind of administrative, institutional aspects. So to facilitate this, we started by having an association, putting up a bank account where we could, for example, invite states parties or others to support the work of the forum and to help develop this more professionalization of the forum. And then the very first step to formal elections took place in 2017. And in a few years, we made the transition from an informal to a more formal elected steering committee. So by 2018, the forum was fully operational on the institutional level, and the first bylaws and terms of reference were also adopted. And actually, this institutionalization phase was ready then. I went back in the past few days preparing this presentation to the Who Are We page on the website of the ICH NGO Forum, and noticed that actually the presentation there is still very much the one that we have developed in 2015, so a decade ago. And I think it's an open question, but I think it actually also still very much reflects the vision, the mission, and the values of the forum up until today. There's no such big shift in that regard, I think. So being a platform for communication, networking, exchange, and cooperation for NGOs accredited by UNESCO, seeing NGOs as a pillar in the safeguarding of living heritage, among the holders of the traditions and the states parties and the UNESCO environment, of course. Also welcoming NGOs that are active in the field and that maybe consider accreditation or in the process of accreditation. And then on a more operational level, organizing meetings and symposia, shared international challenges are being addressed, sharing practices of ICH and safeguarding, and being committed particularly to follow the implementation and the evolution of the convention, which much reflects, I think, still the way the NGO Forum is acting and operating today. So as I said, I made a few slides now to dive a bit deeper in this first stage, as Matti was asking, to give an insight, as not everyone was there at the time, and to learn also from what happened then. I think I remember like 7 or 8 years ago, I went to the UNESCO NGO Liaison Committee, which is an umbrella organization for NGOs that are in partnership with UNESCO. Also having some of the colleagues in the ICH field, but not that much actually. So it's another status than us as accredited NGOs under this specific 2003 convention. And at that time, they were looking into the way we work as a very exemplary, inspirational way, because we combine being so informal and dynamic with this strong networking and engagement and exchange environment, and hoping to learn from that. And indeed, that's the way the forum has grown. And I think it's also a spirit to keep and to keep in mind where we come from if we look at further evolution, because it really is a strength, the way we exchange and collaborate and are like a learning network together, actually. So this very first conference, organized by or hosted by the ENS Catalunya at that stage, then developing the governance with first general meetings, a steering committee on voluntary basis then, and having the vision, mission and values. But always there was this group, Ananya Joanne was there, Leon is there, Diego Gradis, who retired, I know, and then also our colleague Gauthier was there. So we were with a group of colleagues that really engaged for the good of the forum there. And other important, and I also saw Gabriele here, and Gabriele has really been like a pillar for the forum for many, many years. I think we should really appreciate that. He's not always that visible, he's not always present at the meetings because of financial reasons and so on, but he's like being so robust in supporting the forum and developing the website, supporting the newsletters, the social media, and this is like really a rich support for the forum, that people are taking all this time and efforts to make this possible for all of us, and to help develop this communication. Developing activities, working groups, which are very important, I think. They have evolutions, they develop. We have also had different approaches to it, like long-term to more like a stricter approach. It should be for more short-term periods. Also, this is a reflection, and I feel in the past few years that we have been reflecting on it, that, for example, it makes sense to have this kind of working groups that just continue, because it's also building capacities and expertise within this bigger environment of the forum. There's the policy group, there's the Heritage Alive group, there's the research group, with then the branch on tourism, so on. And actually these are this kind of thematic groups where actually NGOs, but also very much people that combine hats. We all know that people combine hats in this convention. So often they are also facilitators and researchers, but also active in an NGO. They have been in the evaluation body, sometimes in the delegations, but that these offer spaces where you can really focus with peers on a specific topic for which you do not always have the time in the other kind of more official meetings. And it helps us to proceed with these thematic areas that are so important in the life of the convention. Heritage Alive was also established in that period. I think the very first was already quite early, 2012, 2013 as well. But it really grew over the years as a special working group, you could say, with this whole idea of having the sharing of lighter ways of safeguarding experiences, on which we see now the development of the platform around Article 18 and sharing safeguarding experience. But also this is an example again of how NGOs have tried to test, to do experiments, to do pilots with how could we find ways to learn from actually what all of us are doing around the world with safeguarding in participatory ways with heritage communities, organizing symposiums and conferences and so on. And as I already said, another important part was very much work relating to the convention itself. In these early years, we had these observations and contributions and debates, and we have seen like waves throughout the years. There have been years where individual NGOs were quite active in contributing to debates. We also know that this is not always easy, being numerous and being some NGOs that do not always have the chance to assist the meetings every year. Then we sometimes got colleagues that started to present just their work as an NGO, very elaborately, which was not very much appreciated then by states parties representatives, because this is not a space where as an NGO you start to present your work as an NGO, therefore you have other spaces. So this is also something to learn for us. And I think in the later years then we start to have this kind of information sessions at every or before every meeting to get everyone acquainted. What are actually the codes of conduct of such meeting? What will you observe when you arrive in such meeting? And if there is a space offered to observers, and so also to NGOs, who should speak, who can speak? Of course, you can speak as an individual NGO, but if you do so, it should really be because you either have a concern or you have a high level of expertise and something to contribute to the debate that will be appreciated by the meeting, whether they are agreeing or not, but that it's on the way of the quality level, it is being appreciated as a contribution of the civil society that is present. So also the statement, speech, reports, these are three variations, I think, that have taken different shapes throughout the years and that also have different roles. The speech had more like, hey, we are here, we are the NGO Forum and we want to engage with you. We are a robust partner, you can trust us. That was mainly the kind of talks we had there. The reports were more like reflecting on what have we been doing and the kind of work we were doing, and then the statements that were very often also in the beginning years printed and distributed in the room. These were more like really civil society statements on the agenda and reflections on, we think that the convention needs to reflect on this or should have more concern for that, this kind of approaches. What has also grown over time is the coordination with the UNESCO Secretariat. I think it has had different rhythms and so on. Of course, there's also been different secretaries throughout those years. But it's very important to have a good relation. And so I think we all very much appreciate that Fumiko and Giovanni and Helena are attending the meeting, because it's also very crucial to have this kind of, we're engaged stakeholders, to have this kind of dialogue and seeing together how we can proceed for the best of the convention together. We also noticed, being with more and more, that capacity building was really a need. I already mentioned like this kind of information sessions that we have held, and where often people like Janet or me or Harriet or there's many others here that also had a facilitator role in the convention, that proposed like actually we could also have this kind of information session. You could call it like a mini capacity building for newcoming NGOs, or for a refreshing session for NGOs that want to learn. And mostly we combined it with this kind of general introduction, with this kind of more code of conduct, what is happening in the agenda, explaining what will be on the agenda of the upcoming meeting, so to have people acquainted. But also once in 2017, we really did this kind of multiple day capacity building workshop. It was attended by around 100 NGO colleagues, so that's quite a large number, where we had it's not an in-depth training, of course, it was 2-3 days, but at least it was really like quite a firm training already. We do not always have the time to learn about all the aspects of the convention for multiple days. And also this could be something to consider. Do we need some training on specific topics, like the thematic areas maybe, again, and how can we organize ourselves in that regard, as there are more facilitators trained now, and there's expertise in quite some areas. So I think even with like half a day or 1 day trainings from time to time, it could be possible. And it's no coincidence, of course, that 2017 was also the year where the decision was taken to reflect on the role of the NGOs. This group was really growing. The forum was very active, as you have seen. A lot of initiatives were there. But we also saw that there were like quite some diversity within that group, and where they operated on, the focus of their work, the way they engaged with the convention. So many questions were on the table as well. This brings us to NGOs in the convention text, which has not so much, of course, not the convention text alone, also the operational directives. This has not changed that much over the years, even with the reflection exercise that has happened in 18 and 19. There's the two articles that refer to it, then the set of operational directives, and then the reference, as Fumiko also said, to the only specified role on the evaluating nominations for the lists. In the text, there's Article 9 that is positioning on the international level, where it's about accreditation of NGOs to act in advisory capacity to the committee. And then one of these ongoing reflections is to think, what is an advisory capacity? And then there's the other article that is focusing on the roles at the national level, and where states parties are asked to identify and define ICH and their territories with the participation of the communities, groups, and individuals, but also relevant NGOs. And there's the relevant NGOs that is, of course, a source of ongoing reflection. What does it mean to be a relevant NGO? The forum itself is not in the text, which is logical on the convention text level, but again, I'm linking my talk again and again to this reflection that you want to do. It's neither mentioned in the operational directives and so on, so it remains a quite informal space that is not in the textual framework of the convention's work as such. Another concern or need to keep focus on, and there have been made quite some efforts, all the more since the reflection exercise, is the distribution of non-governmental organizations that are accredited, where there was really a disparity between the regions and an overrepresentation of the Group 1, so Western and Northern Europe and Northern Americas. Until a few years ago, I think we're slowly evolving. I took a picture of the map as it is now yesterday to have more distribution, but there still is an overrepresentation for sure in Group 1. And this has been a concern, and it also interacts with the attitude, I think, of many states parties towards NGOs within the convention, because it should be a balanced distribution, of course, for the meetings to feel also safe towards the voice of NGOs in that hall. If there's no balance, then there's also concern for bias and some reflection from the NGO side. So in the whole reflection on the role of NGOs, in which the forum has been really strongly involved in 2018-19, and there was this special meeting that has been organized then at UNESCO headquarters. There were a few options on the table for those who were there. So the first option was to maintain the current system, but broadening the advisory definitions and criteria for review of NGOs. Then the second one was really to establish an umbrella organization to coordinate the NGO contributions and simplify the process. It was not per se written as such, but of course the forum was there as a possibility to be such an umbrella organization and to take then a professional role in that regard. And the third one was a hybrid system. Thinking of two types of accreditation, the one that is more like for direct advisory services to the international UNESCO level, and the one was more for NGOs that are linking to the work of the implementation of the convention, but not per se involved in the international sphere, but maybe more like implementing it at the national sphere or in their own work. So three very interesting angles, I think, or lenses on the way NGOs function, the forum functions, and these are all also present still in our networks of NGOs. But it was very clear from the debates that there was only 12% that felt a tendency towards the umbrella function of the forum, which reflected as well, I think, that there was still quite some work to do in the relation with states parties and the bodies. and the majority tended towards keeping the current system. And then I think it's on my next slide. Yes, to keep the accreditation as an intergovernmental process. And actually this has been followed, I'm not sure anymore which year it was, a few years after, but quite an intense debate about 2 NGOs on the General Assembly that took almost 2 days, where you see that from time to time you have a lot of confidence, and then suddenly you have like a kind of losing confidence debates that come up. And it's important for us because I know that all of us here in this room really want to be good partners with the convention, with states parties, to find a space where we can collaborate very well. But we also have experience from time to time that it can be difficult, and that some exceptions can make it suddenly very difficult for civil society and for NGOs to have a voice in this process, and then we're just looking at what happens in the room. So this is a concern for all of us, I think, and also to think very carefully about the way we organize ourselves and we present ourselves, and we want to interact with the intergovernmental system. So there was a strong voice to keep the accreditation as an intergovernmental process, and with the governing bodies to continue to oversee the system with the Secretariat support. So there's the Secretariat that is analyzing the accreditation applications that come in, and then the proposal which ones can be accredited and yes or no re-accredited. And then there was also this mention of maintaining the credibility of the accredited NGOs through having a strong, rigorous reviews every 4 years and integrity checks of NGOs. So there you hear the resonance again of sometimes not always trusting what happens in the NGO activities and sphere. And there was the critical challenge that was raised and has been step by step really being tried to address the geographical equity. And Matti was one of the colleagues that has been working a lot on that, of course, over the past few years to try to get more balance in the geographical representation. One of the topics there that came up is the inter alia roles of the NGOs. There is the advisory role for the what is today the evaluation body, but the nomination evaluations. But then this is an inter alia. It's mentioned like that in the text of the convention. So there was a reflection on what can be the other roles, and you see here, like in brief, the kind of roles that have come up through the reflection phase, which is on reporting roles. So NGOs can contribute significantly to periodic reporting, and the periodic reporting reform has also fostered, I think, the involvement of NGOs in that process. And from the side of the NGOs, there is the working group on the overall results framework. Xinhua and Ananya are leading it since many years, and many of us here are contributing to that work to also see how can we engage as NGOs with this overall results framework, and to link it to the work of the states parties and to the periodic reporting, but also to monitor and improve the impact of our own work as NGOs. Then there is the sphere of the sharing of safeguarding experiences, which actually is already, I think, taken up in many regards by NGOs. And then the Heritage Alive is just one example, but probably also the film project could be classified like such an example, and so on. And it comes up in many of our work where we share experiences. When there was the whole process on the ecological sustainability, there have been many cases that have been advanced there as well. Thematic advice, so the whole thematic evolution in the convention has, of course, been very important in the past years, and many of us do have specializations in some of these topics. So there are a lot of NGO experts that contribute there. And as Fumiko said, the forum is often invited as one of the voices in expert meetings and so on, and then the forum can have a look into its midst, like where are the experts in this topic. And for that, of course, the mapping project is also something that started and that was actually requested very much by the NGO Forum itself, to get insight in what is actually all this expertise, all these capacities that we do have within the NGO network. We knew from the experience and from seeing people who was well in which topic or in which field of expertise, but it was never like a total overview. And many NGOs do not have the possibilities to assist or attend the statutory meetings. So there's much more knowledge out there than the ones that we know from meetings and the ones that are very active in those online meetings. And where actually maybe we still have a lot of room to better engage and more engage also other NGOs that are accredited, but maybe not yet finding the way to how they can act in these networks like we are doing here. And then community outreach was of course another one, like being a bridge between the intergovernmental. Matti, do I still have 5 minutes to raise some? Yeah. Okay. So a few reflections on the ways forward. Then I think I want to be a bit cautious. I don't want to be like one of the initiators from old times that comes to tell everything now. But I do want to think, you all know that I have a warm heart for the forum, even if I'm developing my work more in other directions within the NGO, within the UNESCO Convention now, with the development of the Flame European Centre for the Safeguarding of Living Heritage. So we will continue to interact with the NGOs, but it's not like the main focus of my work in the coming years alone. But of course, I will be a supporter of the NGO work, and I want also to, from being very engaged in the first decade, I hope I can share a few of my concerns, ideas, reflections for you to debate and with the wider group after this. So one of the things that I have been observing, and I think it's just logical, it's what always happens when you have an institutional development of an organization, is that there's a tendency to start to look inwards instead of outwards. And this is something I think we really need to take care of, that the forum needs to work on the convention and on the outreach, and to try to keep the institutional organization of the forum itself as much as possible as an instrument to reach and to serve the forum's objectives. So not to be too busy with ourselves as a forum, but to be as much as possible busy with the implementation of the convention and the work of safeguarding. And that's something to keep in mind always when we are doing things as a forum. If we can move forward, I think we need to look in how can we enhance roles and performance of both the NGOs itself in implementing the convention and relating to the agenda of the convention and so on, as well as to the enhancing the performance of the NGO Forum roles towards the convention. So this can be two angles to really look into. And I know it comes back to the 2018 reflection on the roles of NGOs, but maybe it also makes sense to look into what has happened there. Why did we well or not succeed in some of these options that were on the table, and what should we learn from that if we want to move in that or that direction? I don't want to make the discussion for you now. The executive board and the organizational or management structure, governance structure is another focus. I think there's a huge appreciation for the work that the executive board does, but it has also been a bit of a quest of should all of the work and the control be in that group, but it changes quite quickly. There's an election of part of the group every other year. This means that in the terms of capacity and organization, every year you start another process of learning to know each other, learning to know what is this work as an EB. And it takes a lot of time to find your rhythm and your agreements as a group, which is actually slowing down a bit the work of the EB and of the forum as a whole. So I think we need to look into that. Maybe we need longer terms, stay a bit longer, so that it's not every year, but every 2 years that there will be elections, which gives a bit of more time to learn to know each other and to this work. But also I think we need to look or not expect that the EB does everything. Of course, there are the working groups and so on. But if it comes to the forum, it's the EB that has become like the body in the past few years. And maybe we will be about 300 NGOs, if I understood well. I didn't count them now. But we're so many and there's so many capacities. Maybe we need to also make steps where we can see, can we have some continuity in the expertise and the work in the forum? There's a big group of people that have followed and supported the work for many years, and that maybe can take a part of the work over a few years. And then the EB can really focus on its strategic coordination and this representation function that a body has. It's our spokespeople, but they really do not need to do all the work. All the more as we do not have, until today, professional capacity. We do not have a forum, a secretariat, and actually we should have one, I think. So it needs reflection on how could we organize this, how could we get this realized, because being so many and doing such important things, it's not the capacity of EB members to do all this kind of admin stuff, to book rooms, and to it should be able to focus on strategic questions and to focus on content. So this is a very honest concern that I have, and it has been there over all the years. So let's try to share and distribute the work among the forum members and optimize the EB's roles. But also reflect, and then I come to Mondia Cult. I think we're in a stage where the conventions are moving, like how can we connect the instruments that we needed, ICH Convention, the World Heritage Convention, the 2005 Convention, the Memory of the World Program, and so on. How can we move, like in the spirit of Naples, towards more integrated approaches and move also beyond our own institutional networks and contexts? And I remember with Tamara and with Matti and with Janet and some other colleagues, we were at the Mondia Cult conference, and we really needed to learn to talk to our colleagues in the 2005 convention, to the World Heritage people. And I think this is also an important role of the forum. We will need to find a shared space, a shared language, also as civil society. And again, this is like not turning only towards the inside, but also to what is happening in this broader evolutions. If we want to have culture in the SDGs in the after 2030, then we also will need to do this kind of work in civil society and to have kind of liaisons across NGOs. So this brings us to some critical aspects in the management and the organization, of course, to enhance our structural institutional capacity, continuity and sustainability in the forum, and how can we get this done? How could we organize a daily operation and secretariat? This needs funding, we all know it. It's like a word we cannot speak out in this periods of scarce funding and budgets, but it has been an issue since ever, and I think we need to look, is there a coalition of the willing that wants to help professionalize also this kind of work of NGOs within the convention without, again, the focus always needs to be on implementing and strengthening the work of the convention. So not to become a very institutional thing, but really supporting the work that we're all doing. And how can we safeguard actually the substantive knowledge and expertise that is in our midst? There are some scenarios that we have been thinking of for the funding part. I'm happy to discuss them in the debate, but I'm going over time. So maybe I should just finish now and we can open the floor to have an exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorijn. Thank you very much. This was very important, essential for our discussions. We will continue. We will take questions for you and have also the discussion after the next speaker, who will be Alain Muneean from the executive board. And he will be talking about, Alain, you will say about 15-20 minutes about the reform of the bylaws, which has to happen at the same time as the organizational development or strategic development that we should do. And we are hoping with the EB to proceed so that we have the next proposal for the next bylaws in the committee meeting in December. So please, Alain. I don't see
Thank
you
you,
now.
Matti.
Yes.
Hello to everybody. Big thank you to Jorijn, who did a tremendous job getting us through history and providing us with that historical perspective, which I think is crucial to think about the future. I don't think I'll be that long, in as much as Jorijn has covered most of the topics and has already put us in the right direction to reflect on the future.
Alan,
But
we can't see you. Sorry. Or are you?
are you sure?
Yeah, we don't. At least.
Okay,
No,
I'm
no.
back.
Yes.
I'm back. Thank
Yes.
you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. So the audio was there. I won't repeat what I had just said. So I really think that Jorijn did a tremendous job in walking us through history, and this, of course, will help us in trying to have a better idea of where we can go in the future. I just want to put some little emphasis on one historical aspect that she did mention, and it was about that reflection process that started in 2017 and which ran through up to 2020, where, in fact, the role of the NGO Forum was really highlighted, and there was some real expectations about the work that the forum could be doing more. And when we look at the situation, I think that there are two areas on which there are some reflections that have to be done. And in the first instance, I think that the institution, the convention itself, in as much as it doesn't recognize the NGO Forum as an integrated body, we should maybe start to ask ourselves whether there should be some thought about it and to what extent it would be something feasible and viable to have the NGO Forum benefit from some sort of statutory existence within the convention. So that could be one element, one of the first elements to discuss, and it has to do with the nature of the convention itself. But then the nature, evolution, and recognition of the NGO Forum by the Secretariat and by state parties itself is sufficient proof that they do believe in the work of the NGO Forum. And it would mean really that the Forum is no longer to be considered as a peripheral actor. It has indeed become a recognized interlocutor, because despite the fact that it is not embedded in the constitution of the convention, it is the only instance where the Secretariat, the convention, can link up with NGOs in the most effective way. I mean, when I'm talking about the most effective way, there is areas that can be improved, and we are exactly here in order to be able to look at those ways of improving the contribution of NGOs through the NGO Forum. So these achievements that we have been able to carry out, these achievements that Jorijn mentioned need indeed to be improved on the lines that have already been discussed indeed in the formal settings of the convention itself. And those proposals had to do with formal recognition, indeed, by the state parties and the Secretariat, the convention. It could as well have to do with redefining the clearer mandates as far as the advisory task of the forum of the NGOs are concerned. There is still the issue of regional balancing that need to be addressed, because up to now we still have a persistent geographical imbalance, despite the fact that efforts have been made, but hard measures have not been able to be put in practice. Indeed, there was much resistance towards hard measures. Jorijn mentioned about the need for capacity building and resources to indeed promote enhanced collaboration, and the communication channel that has as well to be enhanced and developed would be one of the most important areas to develop when we talk about getting improvements in the work of the forum. So all these outcomes are very interesting, but for them to happen, in the first place, one of the areas where these outcomes need to be canvassed is the place of the forum within the setting of the convention itself. But then we need as well to look at the statutory body that governs the forum, and this is the place where we do have the means, because we are an independent body, and we have the means to examine this our own statutory body. And the last time we did that exercise was in 2022. And still, if we want to align ourselves strategically, thinking about the forum for the next 10 years, it has become really important that we start a reflection. And I would like to point out that the actual executive board has made it a point to consider this first meeting as a starting point, indeed, for us to know more on what the NGOs, the accredited NGOs, think about ways and means of achieving the objectives of the forum. This is why, for example, we need to review the bylaws, and there is something to be done about that. And we are, by this starting, by this initiative, we are just inviting all NGOs to contribute to the discussion in view of bringing out reforms where necessary to the bylaws. And the forum, the executive board, will be much delighted if we can have a large, wide consultation and discussion about that. So the relevant rules and bylaws that would indeed need to be clarified would have to do with for example, the composition of the board in terms of numbers. As it is, I think that with 6 members, 6 members doesn't really constitute a group with a satisfactory group dynamic. Leave apart the fact that there may be instances where members can't attend the meeting, which means that real participation of the regions is something that need to be addressed. So the idea maybe could be to increase that number. By how many? This is something that we would like to hear from you. And it would be important that we have not only the ideas about how to increase it, but then to look at the means for it to happen. Because any modification to the bylaws, if we want it to work out well, would need support. So this support can as well and should as well be a support in terms of financial contribution. And for example, to what extent can the forum stand to some extent on its own in terms of its funding? So we leave it open once more to contribution from you for us to have your views on the means and the ways that can be put that would help us indeed to achieve the goals with some means. So these are the ideas that that need to be canvassed, and yeah, the forum indeed would like to open up the discussion, and we would very much appreciate that you bring ideas in order that we are able to reflect, continue the reflection, and if need be, to be able to come up with amendments as soon as possible. But we would, of course, not rush into things and allow for proper discussion and consultation to take place. So with these words, I will thank you for your attention and give back the floor to Matti.
Thank you, Alain. Thank you very, very much. And also thank you for going to the concrete details. Also, I think this is very important that we also go straight to the subject. Also, with this idea of enlarging the executive board, I think this is one of the kind of the example ideas that we have to put on the table and see if it's doable or not. And also maybe to this. Just also from a example point of view, we have to remember the kind of the election processes, how many candidates we usually have. Is there possibility, are we lacking candidates if we are enlarging the numbers of the seats? But on the other hand, also this goes well with what Jorijn said before, that maybe we should extend the terms also, which would work then to the other direction, which maybe might be easier again with this kind of example to really achieve. But this is something that we have to have the discussion on. And thank you for your reflections, Alan. We will we will work in Paris GA meeting. We will have some session on the bylaws also. Depending, we don't know the details yet, but we will inform about them and then proceed with this these webinars during the year, during the summer in Paris about the strategic things, but also with this bylaws revision. Just to remind all that there's also the Google form in the chat. And please inform if you don't see it, because I think you should see the link there. So there we are now also asking for you to give us concrete ideas. What kind of structural, organizational things we have to have more, and then also some kind of practical things. Jorijn was talking about the governance and then the activities. So I think these two levels would be something that we need to have ideas from you, and then we try to collect the information, and hopefully in the next webinar we will then use that as a basis for going deeper and proceed. But yes, now we have and also my colleagues from the EB, please remind me if I miss something, but I think now we can go for the discussion. So please, any comments to any subject? I will just open the floor if you have any questions to Jorijn or any of us, or the process, or any comments. So just please raise your hand and we will start the discussion.
Matti, also remember we have a link for a short form, so everyone can deliver answers via a Google form.
Yes, exactly. This is important too, and it's in the chat. So please inform me if you don't find it or if you don't understand how to go on. So I see it's Seku Berthe, please. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Matti. Thank you also to the Secretariat. I have to thank Jorijn for her excellent presentation. I have to thank also Alain. I want to just make two comments or two observations. Jorijn raised a good point about the role and our constitution status. I think I have to say exactly, we've done a poor job with the mapping project on the second phase. When we were informed, suggestions were made, and even though we wrote, nobody followed up. So if we have a formal space to do a job, we need to be professional. And I have said it more than one time that we do not have all the expertise on the executive board. And there was more than one opportunity to go to every single electoral group and see where to fetch or retrieve human resources. If we had followed the suggestion, we could have done better. The other thing is, the other second speaks to the issue of extending or increasing the number on the executive board. We have to be careful, because even in doing the research, if you have a focus group that goes more than 5, you do not have a focus, we have a mob. And I don't think that the issue of being efficient has a lot to do with only the digital weight of the team. It has something to do with who we assign the job and how we team up. And in terms of tax and election, we've done also a poor job lately, and I know you, Matti, and Alain are working on that. So I will be looking forward to see how we can do better. To keep it short, thank you. Sorry if I have...
No. Thank you, Seku. Very, very valuable, very important things that you raised up. This is really like an ecosystemic or systemic challenge that we are having now. I think there is no magic bullet which can solve everything. We have to work, as you said, with the election process. We have to work with the kind of the roles. We have to work with everything at the same time. And this is something that makes it challenging, but also I think the impact might be very big if we succeed. So thank you for your words. I think Janet next, and then Cheyenne and Afnan
Thank you.
after. But Janet, please.
Is it me next? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to, first of all, say thank you to Jorijn and Alain. Both were very informative and I think should inspire us to be ambitious for the future, which is important. Because if we look at what happens in many other treaty frameworks, especially the environmental treaties, the civil society organizations and their umbrella organizations really have a much more active role. I mean, this is actually a problem, I should say, historically within UNESCO that we also have to challenge. But many of the states parties to our treaty are also states parties to these other treaties where they're perfectly happy for that civil society engagement. So it's something we can work on. And the working group on legal and policy development that has now existed for 2 years, we certainly have the ambition to try to increase our presence in the committee meeting, especially by helping to support the preparation of clear positions for the forum, which I think is something that we have to start working politically and strategically within what is effectively a political structure. And the trouble, of course, is that we don't have funding. We're purely voluntary. Many of us are very busy doing a lot of other things. Some of us occasionally get caught up in war zones and are unable, in fact, to connect at all for 2 months, which is what happened to me recently. But I think it's something we have to really think seriously about how we can do this and how can we build the capacity to do it. The second thing is, if you look at some of these other treaties, you see that there's actually a formal space for dialogue with civil society and the states parties to those treaties. And I think what we have to do really is work with those states parties that we know are friendly towards the forum and really start trying to engage with them as to find ways to open up that space. It's a long-term thing. I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I do think that's the direction of travel that we want as a forum, while trying also to keep this very collegiate approach that we've had up till now. And that's the difficult balance to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. Yes, this is, I think benchmarking is the thing that we have to do on many levels with the other NGOs, but also with this kind of relationships with other conventions and state parties, as you said, very good. And also thank you for your work with your working group. It is essential, I think, with this process also to have this kind of viewpoint to the many issues that we have. But now, Cheyenne, please.
Yeah, everyone. Hi, my name is Cheyenne Rondon. I am an Indigenous woman based out of Texas, in the United States. I'm with Society of Native Nations. We've been accredited for actually going on year 3 now. I've been able to attend both the Paraguay and the India ICH comms. And with my experience there is a huge disparity when it comes to civil society and especially NGOs. The disparity can vary from engagement to clear communication to policy. And I believe that, Ms. Janet, you said it perfectly. If you look at other UN systems and how they're governing themselves, civil society has a much bigger role and much more active voice in these very important spaces. And from the last experience in India, it was very hard to just track down a person who can give me the right answer, especially as a onboarding NGO with UNESCO. Most NGOs are grassroots, and I say most because I know that there are the exceptions that are more national or state level. But it is disappointing to see that in UNESCO, culture organization is not really upheld when it comes to NGOs and other governing systems or other organizations that are grassroots led, that don't have the voice to say what is being voted into policy or what is being voted into General Assembly. So at the same time, the system that is established for people like us, communities like us that are representing a much grand community, indigenous voices, specifically, I'm talking about my experience, it's very disappointing to see that we're a check mark, we're a statistical checkbox. Well, they went to the, my thought is, oh, well, they went to this, so they, they built relationships. But in reality, we weren't able to have any official communications with state members. It was very hard to track down the NGO leads. In UNEP, you have your co-facilitator, your co-chair. You have someone who was elected into a position, right, to have that one source communication. And it was very, very difficult to track down. And that was with months prior trying to engage in communication with email, asking, hey, are there any group chats that we need to be aware of? Are there any other newsletters that I need to sign on to? And it took a while to respond. And I understand that we are operating off of a volunteer system and capacity is an issue. But how are we supposed to support the new onboarding NGOs, especially if they're not having the proper funds to have an adequate support person who can be on top of all the UNESCO events? So there's a disparity when it comes to communication. There needs to be a mainstream, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Signal, whether it's more frequent newsletters. Right now, I did the research. We average about every 2 months, and that's being generous. Every 2 months of a newsletter of updating everyone. Hey, civil society did this. Hey, look at this NGO. And it really does fall back on who is in these elected positions. In the bylaws, we have to vote someone into these executive board or the co-facilitator, the co-chair. And maybe there needs to be a restructure of that to see who has the capacity to take us to that next step. And I know it's a lot of information throwing out, but I'll end with this. I think that we all collectively here, there's 62 people on this phone call. If we organized ourselves to be able to have a more united voice and clear up the confusion of who do we go to, when are we meeting, maybe we need to have more frequent meetings. If we can organize ourselves, then we will really be enforcing that cultural organization aspect in UNESCO. We can educate our state members. We can have a better engagement with our state members when it comes to voting up policies. They should be consulting with people like us, NGOs like us. And it's a shame that right now that it's taken this long for us to even have this dialogue. 2003 is when our convention was ratified, right? So we need to prioritize this so that way when the next time comes around in China, we can come together and have a stronger united voice and demand our voices to be at these tables that are voting on our behalfs. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the wonderful webinar and having these opportunities to have this engagement. I think this is a great first step, and I hope that we can continue working forward and collaborating together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very, very essential things. And I think this is why we are here. And we have worked many years, I think, for the challenges. I think we agree, everybody, that we have a lot of potential amongst the accredited NGOs, enormous potential, actually. And we could have much more, like a bigger impact in general, in many ways. But the challenges are also like these structural and strategic that we are now trying to kind of tackle one by one, so that we can get our own kind of organizational being into an impactful a forum, and then I think we can also proceed with this exactly these important things that you mentioned, Shane. Thank you. Then Afnan, please.
Hello, thank you. This is Afnan from Hirfa Association, an advisory organization working with UNESCO in the field of living heritage, particularly traditional handicrafts. From an advisory perspective, it would be valuable to understand how the proposed reforms aim to strengthen member engagement and support the forum's long-term sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And also, if you can often put that to the Google questionnaire, this is, I think, very, very important point. Also, that we have discussed many times, that the power of the, like, for example, in the executive board, and also mentioned by Jorijn many times, that the forum actually lives through the accredited NGOs. The executive board can do only that much. And also what we are very much aiming is that the working groups could have a bigger and bigger position in the kind of the overall activities, because when you really look at it, the real work happens in the working groups. And but do we have concrete steps for all the accredited NGOs to find their own working groups? And can they kind of create the new working groups with their own topics? This is something that we would very much want to happen, but maybe want to see to happen. But this is a challenge, also kind of engaging challenge, which takes a lot of effort from EB, but from all of us, and kind of to try to kind of create the right paths to make it happen. But this is really the intention, that also that we would not do the work within the executive board, but really to get the 300 NGOs to work on this great convention, and really on the field and with the community. So this is, of course, the intention of all. Grenada, please.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Adriana Rojas and I'm representing Grenada National Trust. We have been accredited since 2024, but it's my first time that we are attending. So thank you very much for extending that invitation. Definitely the topics and the key solutions that we're trying to find requires more deepened levels of reflections and brainstorming and benchmarking. But things that I want to share from my perspective and my point of view of being here in the Caribbean, by the way, because sometimes people get confused where I am. No? But it is that we're a tiny island, and as we represent, at the same time, we are the intermediating agency between NGOs, cultural practitioners, all the activities that have been done or currently happen here, the state party, and at the same time guiding them and providing them and guiding them with the path of UNESCO and ICH and documenting ICH. The major challenge that we are facing, or we have been facing, is lack of capacity building, lack of knowing that the resources are there, lack of communications, and then how we best represent their interests in terms of having a broader impact in the communities when the financial resources are the major challenge in the access to funding. And at the same time, as they are trying to build up the structure from a zero level and not having the funding for basic things that in another part of the world would be easy to cover, but administrative functions, most of them don't declare or they don't declare the taxes or what the transparencies are by year and year, and then how we know that they're doing things because somebody else told us, but there's an overlapping, lack of communication. And then that comes to this question and that reflection: how will envision, what will be our criteria of developing those profiles needed in this forum that really represent their voices, we don't create it as a bureaucratic thing, because when we talk about UNESCO, it's so difficult for them to believe that they can access to those funding because they think that they are not reachable for them. So how do we organize our chart or our functions in a way that we really represent the communities in a very simple dialogue and level, and their language, because they use another language. When so we were able to implement a project. We built that baseline, and now since then they can talk about ICH, the difference between tangible and intangible cultural heritage, and you see that in the newspapers and their talks and so on. But is a work in progress that has to continue, and at the same time, by heritage not being a priority for a cultural part of it, not being a priority for the state parties, kind of challenging to engage and to match both voices, and something that can unify and empower more the communities and our works, and really will become more visible for them and help them in the process. Well, thank you very much. I'm just new in this, and if I miss something, thank you. I'm really happy to be part of that, and I like the projects, and I know I like the idea that we're building this together, because I think that we can create things from having multi-perspective and knowledges and expertise that can really do something different, rather than being a part of an NGO or United Nations. It has to be more simple. That's my final message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is and welcome to the group. Very important that we kind of show and see the example of the inclusivity and the aim that we are or the way that we are aiming, that really get also the newly accredited NGOs easily or effectively to our activities. This is not always easy. There are many different concepts and kind of things to learn and understand with the convention, but also with the kind of role of the accredited NGOs, us being in the middle between the communities and the state parties. Of course, like having possibility for capacity building, like you said, in many ways, but then doing it voluntarily. And all of us, we have our own work in the field with the community. So this should be the most important thing for all of us, I think. But then at the same time, how to work with this balance. This is very good inputs. Thank you for that. Martin, please.
Hey, Matti. Hi, everyone. I am Martin Andrade from the Erigaye Foundation from Colombia, accredited since 2010. And first, thank you very much for organizing this. And congratulations, because I think it's a very good idea, indeed, just to think about the forum and think about updating the bylaws. I fully agree with Jorijn. I think she couldn't have said better. I mean, with all like the continuity, longer period, secretariat, and not delegating the job on the executive board. But now that if we are proposing to change or to see the bylaws, I was thinking about something related to the working groups, because I think right now the working groups are supposed to be created for 2 years. And I think that doesn't work. I mean, that should change. We should let the working groups propose the time they need to work. It should not be 2 years. Could be 4 years or 6 years, but it should depend on the working groups, because 2 years sometimes in most of the cases is not enough. I know it's not exactly like that. The working groups can be updated, but that's but that should be changed, I think. And also, you were thinking, or someone was talking about the integration with other conventions, and I have always seen like this UNESCO liaison committee with the NGOs, like the official NGO liaison committee, or what, I don't know exactly how it works, or what's its name, like the NGOs in official partnership with UNESCO. NGOs covering all the subjects, all the conventions, all the topics, or like with UNESCO in general. We are not doing anything with them. The forum doesn't have any kind of relation with them. And I think it's important, because at the end, this is like the NGO umbrella organization of UNESCO. And I think that's so important that it should be even part of the bylaws. And I would even suggest that if you are thinking about increasing the number of people in the executive board, someone from this UNESCO liaison committee at UNESCO could be part of the executive board. And if we are thinking about the executive board, about a group of people who take decisions and who try to see the general panorama, a much better relationship with this organization, UNESCO general organization, should be done.
Thank you, Martin, again for your concrete ideas. I think this is very important. I will now say a few words that I have in my minutes here. We don't have any hands up, so please we still have 10 minutes to discuss. So feel free. Something that has been mentioned, and I think that will be kind of the basis of our work, will be the kind of functionality of the executive board, the terms, and then the numbers. Also the term for the members, but also for the chairperson, because now the chairperson is elected only for 1 year, and this also affects a lot to the dynamics. So I think these things should be on the table. I think something that I got from Jorijn, but also has been discussed before, having another level of governance, some kind of advisory group with a certain role, might work with kind of thematic issues or then like regional issues. Also, we've had in Morocco, I remember, very successful meetings with the regional kind of electoral group meetings, but I think we haven't managed to continue very good with that practice. So I think this might also be one level to think about. I really trust the working groups, that the way we are working now, we should enhance it, and that might be kind of the easiest way. Martin told about the thing in the bylaws that we have been quite easy with, because it has been seeming to be the consensus that's how we should go. The idea with the short-term working group was kind of inclusivity, that we would have a change in the working groups, that there would be a lot of rotation in a way. But actually, the problem is now that we, even without the time period, we could have more working groups. So it's not actually like a very big competition, and also to be honest, also to get the candidates to the elections, we haven't had like hundreds, let's say that. So that is also one thing to keep in mind. Also, one thing is very, very essential to discuss, which we haven't begun yet, will be the funding. I think we have a consensus on the need of the secretary, of some kind of a CEO maybe, or then secretary leadership, or both, kind of a paid personnel. It will change a lot the budget, and that money has to come from somewhere. And that also is a little bit, or not actually a little bit, but very sensitive thing for this kind of an organization. We have to be very, very transparent and create the funding system so that it is it looks good from all the parts of the world, and so on. Yes, I think these things I had on my minutes now, but then we can go further. I think, Tina, you were first, and Ananya. Sorry if I confuse you now, but
Yeah,
is it
no,
okay?
thank you so much,
Tina, please.
Matti. I'm Tina Frühauf. I'm directing the NGO Répertoire International de Littérature Musicale. It's a global organization, and I'm based in New York. I'd like to elaborate on one comment that has been brought up about the intergovernmental sessions, and well, they're very useful as a kind of very, very young NGO in the UNESCO system, the side events that happened at the General Assembly 2 years ago were really a vital first step to kind of network and liaise with the ICH network. And they're not happening this year. And I'm very curious why. So I think it's, for me, attending the General Assembly, it was such an important moment. So maybe somebody knows the reason, and maybe they can also elaborate on whether this is going to continue in 2028 and being reinstated. The other point I have is maybe there's something that I'm missing because, again, you know, we are very new in the ICH network. It's about the working groups. It would be very, very helpful to have a very clear governance on to whom to make the proposal, who is voting for it, what materials are needed, and to have a very clear outline. Maybe even it would be nice to encourage activity, to have a call for proposals for new working groups and then a vetting committee or so. I already submitted the form, so I cannot add it. If this could be added as a suggestion that I would think would be valuable, I would be very grateful.
Thank you. Just to check, you were talking about the side events of the GA.
The side
right?
events at the General Assembly
Yes.
every 2
Okay.
years in June, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe Fumiko can talk to this or the
Yes.
bureau.
Yes. I will just say before that about the working groups. This is something also very important. We have now just created a communication working group, new working group, and hopefully this might be one of the tasks of the new working group, that we would really make it very easier to form the new working groups. You can find the information, but maybe for newcomers it's not that easy to go through the bylaws or wherever you have to go. So I think there is something that we really have to work, and also this call for like to have it every year, call for working groups. I think it's a good idea. But I will just ask Fumiko if you would like to answer, or Giovanni, if you're still available, if you would like to answer about the situation or the reasoning or the reason why we don't have the side events in the in Paris General Assembly.
I think they
Hello?
left.
No,
Yes,
I'm
no,
here.
great.
No, I'm here. Can you hear?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Please.
Of course, we would have liked to have side events, but at some point there have been so many requests that are coming in that it would have been very difficult to sort of offer spaces for all requests for a meeting of only 2 days. So we have decided to concentrate the side events opportunities for the committee. And then for the General Assembly, this is really a meeting for the states parties taking administrative, legal, institutional decisions to concentrate. It was simply not possible to cater, how can I say, to make the space available for growing number of requests. Actually, we are becoming so solicited that it's no longer a question of sort of managing spaces for several requests. So it was a decision made in that sense. Also combined with the fact of the organizational budgetary restraints, human resources constraints that also played a role in taking that decision.
Thank you, Fumiko, for the answer. We have been talking with the secretariat, with the executive board and the secretariat, so that we would have a room in the UNESCO building. Hopefully we can arrange that. We haven't decided anything yet, but the idea is to if we have the room possibility for the room, then the ICH NGO Forum will have its own program, which will be maybe regional meetings, working group meetings, maybe the bylaws meetings, mainly for the NGOs present there, also for the newcomers. But still, we don't have the kind of the details set, so we will share the information later. Ananya, please.
It was great, all the deliberations. I just wanted to mention a few things. Organization structure, governance is very important, but there is a long road to go, and maybe we have to do step by step. Now, one thing we have been trying is to get the state parties' attention, which was also discussed, and from the legal and policy working group, we also had like a two-pager on how we can contribute to the reporting. The living heritage entity has been engaging us in the thematic discussion and in other ways. But I think the ICH NGO Forum and the State Parties Connect has, as was discussed, has been rather dependent on the friendly state parties. Maybe if the UNESCO Living Heritage Entity, if you can help in having maybe online session before our IGCs, this is done in the 2005 convention, but at least a few of them come so that even from the state party side, there is a onus of interaction. And then it does not need to be only the friendly ones. Just some food for thought. Another thing is, because I have been of late involved in all the three conventions, there was a query by someone who is from Australia, and they work on indigenous people's heritage. And Australia is not a signatory, but he will be in Paris, and he was asking that there's nothing around indigenous heritage. And that is a question I'm just sharing, that this is something really, there's nothing like that. Third is in communication, we were talking about support, and supporting the executive body. So communication is something I think we working groups can help, that way we can have more like social media communication and things like that. So that could be part of our discussion too. So these are some of the things I wanted to share.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you very much. Very good ideas. And please go and fill the Google form with your ideas. I think the first one you said is very, very important, but also very important for us to really understand what you meant. I think like what kind of possibilities there are, because you have the expertise, especially with the other conventions also. And then to this other question, I can't remember anymore who was asking, but you can fill the form 2 times if you cannot revise it. So it's just like a memo from this webinar, the questionnaire. So we are hoping that we can build on that with the
I'll
next
request
webinar.
you to email the form to us so that those who are not in the meeting, they can also.
We will try to have it the recording as a news article, and also the link to the form, so you can still go and afterwards to fill it. Fumiko, please.
Just wanted to say 11GA wise, of course, we are looking forward to having the report of the ICH NGO Forum, which will figure on the timetable of the session. And as to the complementary information for the room availability, indeed, there will be a room put at the use of the ICH NGO Forum, so that you will be able to hold any meetings of technical nature. I just wanted to confirm that.
Thank you, Fumiko. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, then I can't find any hands.
But there is one question, sorry, the last one, Data Engers is asking in the chat. Data, are you there?
Or can you read it, Irina, if you have it there?
Yes, it means I would like to ask whether upcoming meeting in Paris will also provide opportunities for accredited NGOs to come together, to meet each other and network. Did I understand this correctly?
Yes, thank you for the question. So this is the intention, that we will have a room and all the accredited NGOs will have like a place and its own schedule for the meetings, like a general meeting, like not like a general meeting, but like a meeting for all, and then maybe working groups wise or some thematic meetings. But this we will inform you later when we know the details. So maybe it might take still week or two, so quite soon or quite near the actual meeting, but this is just the reality how it is. Okay, thank you everybody. I think it's now sharp. No, it's 1 minute over. Sorry. Okay, but we will end. I'm very, very happy that you all were here, and thank you, Jorijn and Fumiko and Alan and all the other interventions. Also,
What
this is,
about
I
her
think,
photo? You didn't take the photo.
okay. We will take the photo. That's good. It's good. We have, I think, yes. Please put your camera on if I can. And you should smile in 5 seconds and still try to work with your camera. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Great. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend. And
Thank you so
take
much.
care. Be safe.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
day.
See you in Paris.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Fumiko.
Jacob, Alain.
Yeah.
Mohammed. Bye bye, Yuri.